7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
What's up, monkeys? Monkey Dan here, and welcome to the Live Wild or Die podcast. And this episode, it's basically just thoughts on nutrition. I think that's what I'm going to title it, Thoughts on Nutrition. But it was inspired by, basically I was talking to my wife last night, and nutrition got brought up, and I said, honestly, if I had to write like a book on nutrition, I don't know what I would tell people. But in doing that, it made me really think about what I would tell people. So I wanted to share that with you guys today. So I kind of go all over the place a little bit, but very high level stuff. And, let me know what you guys think, and we can maybe get a little more granular on this stuff. I'm definitely not like a nutrition scientist, but I think it's more, for me, it's always been more of like a lifestyle and just a philosophy versus like getting super granular. So that is my philosophy. And I don't want to talk too much more because I'll just repeat myself here. So let's dive in. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show. What's up, monkeys? Welcome to the Live Wild or Die podcast. I'm your host, Monkey Dan. And this episode was actually inspired by, I was talking to my wife last night, and basically I was saying, if I had to write a book on nutrition or do a podcast on nutrition, I'm not really sure what I would tell people. So that inspired me to sit down, think about it a little bit, and just share some general thoughts I had with you guys and see what you thought. So this would be a great episode to leave a comment, shoot a note to info@monkii.co. You can leave comments on YouTube, Instagram, whatever it is. Shoot us questions, notes, and would love to hear your thoughts on this. And just curious what you guys are doing out there as well. So in no particular order. So really what I think is important is it's not about having a diet. It's about developing this philosophy or this lifestyle of eating. And I think a great way to do that is if you only buy healthy, nutritious food, you know what's good, you know what's bad. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit. So basically, if you're buying real whole foods, so for example, an avocado, a sweet potato, a salmon or a salmon fillet, a steak, chicken, broccoli, kale, whatever it is, those are all single ingredient. You know exactly what it is. It's not packaged. And there's nothing that can kind of get hidden in there, which I think the industrial food industry is especially good at hiding ingredients that taste good and probably are not good for you. So if you're only eating real foods, I think that makes it super easy to eat well. And, for me, it's like what's in the house, I'm going to eat. So if I buy ice cream, I'm going to eat the ice cream. I will eat it all. And sometimes my mother-in-law will bring cookies and things like that, and I'll have to throw them away, or else I'll just destroy them all. They're so good, and I'm not trying to say this stuff doesn't taste good, but it's it's not worth it. And what I've tried to do recently actually is I've developed this attitude of basically getting disgusted by these packaged, highly processed foods. So I've just kind of trained my mind to have this very negative reaction when I see these highly processed foods. Like, think of stuff like the super processed packaged cookies or like muffins you see at like a Safeway or something like that. There's especially more and more I'm starting to think about the industrial seed oils like sunflower seed oil or canola oil, all these really highly processed vegetable oils. I still don't know a ton of the science behind it, but I suspect, as ubiquitous as they are, that they're definitely a big influence in this kind of obesity and health crisis we're seeing right now. So I really try and avoid those, even though I can't really speak to the specific science. I just, I believe something that's that processed and that altered just can't be good for you, especially as a fat. And again, I think it's all about, a lot of things are all about mindset, right? So if you can develop this philosophy and just style of eating where I think people, and myself, I'm guilty of it as well, but I think a lot of times you can get too in the weeds with these things and try and get too specific with the program or what exactly. It's too granular. You got to think bigger picture, I think. So just if you can develop this philosophy and just you have this suite of healthy ingredients, don't worry about exactly what you're eating as far as like counting macros for protein, carbs, fats, all that. I think if you're just eating this well-rounded, varied diet, even though I'm not trying to use that word diet, you're going to work. It's going to be okay. And I was actually listening to Kyle Kingsbury's podcast yesterday while I was running, and great podcast, by the way. Definitely recommend it. But he was talking to, it was actually a financial show. They're talking about with a guy, Ramit Sethi. I think I said his name right, but they're talking just about personal finance, all this stuff. Great episode. But he had a great quote that I loved. I think it was Kyle's quote, but it was #cheat clean. And basically the concept behind it was, if you're going to have these cheat meals, or as part of like this, this clean eating program, if you have these cheat meals or you want to have cheat meals, don't go to Domino's and get pizza. Make your own pizza, make your own ice cream, make your own apple pie, make your own bacon cheeseburger, whatever it is. I guarantee anything you make on your own is going to be much, much better for you than something you're buying at, like a fast food joint or something like that. I think I noticed this myself. Like if we make pizza from scratch, or when we make pasta, we have a pasta maker. Awesome. We went to Italy a couple summers ago. We had a ton of pasta, and I actually, not to go too far down a rabbit hole, but interestingly, we were in Italy we basically were on like a 7-week trip between backpacking, going to California, Italy, Norway. But I did a before and after picture. So it was 7 weeks apart, and I pretty much looked the same as far as body composition, all that. And we were pretty much just using monkey bars to work out, and rocks and logs and body weight, did a ton of walking. But we also ate pasta every day. We're enjoying wine every day, gelato, all this stuff. But I think the combination of walking like at least probably 8 to 10 miles a day, and we only had like 2 meals a day. But the food quality was so good. I think that's something I was really interested being in Europe was they don't really have, at least to my understanding, they don't really have an industrial food industry as we do, like we do here in the States. So just something to think about. I mean, I know grain and gluten has definitely been on the out and out, but or the down and out, I should say. But it was interesting over there. I typically feel okay when I eat grain and gluten, but my body composition changed pretty much the same, and I was eating what probably wouldn't be considered necessarily the healthiest food, but like they say, that Mediterranean diet, that's seems to be giving folks quite a good quality of life. So anyways, back to this #cheat clean mentality. So I heard another podcast, a guy named Logan Schwartz on Primal Endurance, I believe. It was either Primal Endurance or Primal Blueprint, possibly both. But gentleman's name was Logan Schwartz. He had kind of this great approach to the concept of having a cheat meal or cheat day. He's like, do I have a cheat day with my wife? I love my wife. I would never cheat on my wife. So why would I have a cheat day on my nutrition, on my body, on my temple? So that's something I've been thinking about more and more. I'll enjoy a couple beers on the weekend. I typically try not to drink during the week, and I'll have a couple of beers on a Friday night, maybe a couple of beers on a Saturday night, and depending on holidays and whatnot, maybe a few more. But it's definitely not like a regular part of my eating philosophy or my eating lifestyle. And I think too, a lot of this stuff with nutrition, you can read all these blogs, you can read all these scientific papers, but I really think when it comes down to it, it's a personal experiment, and it definitely can fluctuate throughout your life depending on your goals, your activity level, your health, where you happen to be in the world. All these different things, I think, really, they all add up. So I think you need to be, it's kind of this catch-22 where you need to be very disciplined, not bring the crap into your house, keep the junk out, but you also need to have this open mind and be flexible to when you're in these different scenarios in life. So something to think about. I think for me, the biggest thing is just, if it's not in the house, I'm not going to eat it. And it's pretty simple that way. One other thing I've noticed, I just thought it was a normal thing throughout my whole life, but I didn't realize how many people go out to eat for lunch specifically. So if you're at work or getting takeout, going down to whatever the convenience center down the road, whatever it is, I've certainly eaten out a few times for lunch, but I'm definitely a brown bag packed lunch every day. And I typically just bring leftovers from the previous night's dinner, as well as maybe like some yogurt, some nuts. Well, today I'll tell you exactly what I brought. Let's go through it. So I brought probably 2 to 3 tablespoons of almond nut butter. So it has almond butter, roasted almond butter with a little salt, cinnamon, and honey. I brought ground beef, which I poured this Trader Joe's autumn, it's like a pumpkin autumn pasta sauce. It's so good. I poured that on it. So it's almost like a soup, but thicker. So I had probably maybe 1/3 cup of ground beef with this delicious sauce. I had an apple, a large Honeycrisp, organic to be specific. What else? Oh, some pork rinds. Now, pork rinds, if I would have heard that for sure 10 years ago, 5 years ago, questionable. But if I would have heard pork rinds in my lunch, I would have thought I was crazy. But, it's basically just fat. And, I definitely, I'm sure a lot of people listening, I grew up with that food pyramid where grain was at the bottom and then, fats and sweets were at the very top. And, I'd say relatively recently just kind of got over this conditioned fear of fat in my diet. So maybe the last probably since I moved to Colorado, really. So 2013. So maybe 5 or 6 years, I really have shifted to adding more fat to my diet. I feel great. My body composition is, it honestly didn't change much. I was pretty lean to start, but definitely didn't add any body fat or anything like that. But I think a lot of people, especially women, are just a little bit stuck in that, low fat, high carb, this real lean, quote unquote, this healthy, clean diet. And certainly there's ways to get bad fats, trans fats, these industrial seed oils in your diet. But, if you're eating avocados, good quality butter made from good milk, full fat Greek yogurt, organic, what else? I'll eat like a fatty cut of meat, like a ribeye, like a grass-fed ribeye. I eat a ton of eggs. That's not, saturated fat in the yolks, but olive oil, all these things, high fat, but they're high quality fats. They're good, whole foods, real foods. And, I really don't think there's anything to be afraid of. There are some genetic conditions I know that I can't speak to the exact specifics, but I know there are some genetic predispositions where, you can get these super high blood cholesterol levels. But other than that, I think the question I would ask is, do you feel good? Do you have energy? Is your body composition where you want it to be? I think if all those are a yes, then you're probably eating quite well. I'm sure, we could possibly get a little better, but if you're there, I think that's where you want to be. Do you feel good? And I think that's where it can be a little tricky, where if you're trying to follow these real strict programs, it might be a good place to start. Kind of like, well, I always tell people that really they want something that's specific. I think paleo-ish is a pretty good place to start. And really, it's really just eliminating the processed packaged foods, whether you're eating grains and dairy and all that. That's that's such an argument and rabbit hole to get into. But personally, for me, I don't necessarily seek out, a lot of bread in my life, but I also, if we're going out for Italian food, or if we make pasta at home, or, if someone makes homemade, fresh quality bread, I feel great. It's when you eat that like Wonder Bread basically, or, it's the process. It always comes down to the processed food. So don't eat those. So that was good. That felt good to kind of get all that out. And for those of you tuning in recently, so today is October 29th, 2019. We've got about a week left. I can pull it up right here. We've got about a week left in the Monkii 360 Kickstarter. What are we at? So we have 9 days to go. So it ends November 7th. We're at 1.182, so 1.1 million, almost 1.2 million. And I'm sure if you're listening to this, you've supported us in some way over the years. So thank you. We monkies, we wouldn't be here without you guys. So I appreciate it. And I've been pretty psyched on the response I've been posting some Instagram stories the last few days, or maybe last week or so, on and off, but I've been posting of this morning kind of movement routine I go through, and it's kind of the base levels, the base levels at 3 rounds, 15 reps each, squat, push up, and a row. And I started adding in a few more things, specifically back extensions, and then I started adding tucks and or pikes as well. And this last Saturday, I woke up super early, drove like 4 hours, hiked around the mountains all day, and then drove home that night. And my low back was just killing me. And I happened to listen to a podcast right the next morning, and the guy was talking about how he had back pain and doing a lot of extension exercises. So think just like a Superman back extension, where you lay on the floor and you kind of arc your back up. And I did a ton of those basically Sunday, hip extensions, all these things, and really loosened up my low back. And it made me think how I'm even kind of sitting right now. I'm a little bit hunched over. My shoulders rolled forward. I think a lot of people spend time like that. So that could be a whole nother episode. But if you're feeling tight in the low back, add a little extension and see how it feels. So thank you, everyone, for listening. Lastly, reviews make the world wilder. If you have time, please leave a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. It'd be very much appreciated and just help spread the good word of the wild. So appreciate it if you can do that. Thank you for tuning in, monkeys. Stay wild. I'll see you out there.